Let's speak to the relevant union leader, Mick Whelan, is General Secretary of the Train Drivers Union, ASLEF, who joins me now. I'm not sure, but I think it's something like 7 strikes or something over the last 6 or so months. Has any progress been made in that period of time, Mr. Whelan? Good morning to you.
Good morning. No, you know the background, Nick. We haven't had a pay rise for 4 years. While the people that we employ us, so we don't work for the Treasury or the DFT, contrary to popular belief, have been declaring profits and paying dividends. They made 500 million during the pandemic, and we think it's rather odd that the people who actually do the work don't share in some of that.
You were in front of some MPs last month, I think it was, Mr. Whelan, and you were asked to rate between 1 and 10 the chance of getting a deal with Network Rail. You replied 0. Can we nudge it up at all, or is it still at rock bottom?
We go back into talks on Tuesday. There was an act of bad faith that drove that comment that happened the week before, where somebody put out this massive protocol that ripped up every national open agreement that ever been achieved in the last 140 years outside of the talks and outside of the framework that we'd agreed, and the communication protocols that we'd agreed, which was, like I say, a total act of bad faith. But we go back into talks next Tuesday, and we want a resolution. My people don't want to be losing money, and they don't want to be standing out in the cold.
Earlier this week, I don't need to tell you, more than 500,000 people withdrew their labour in a sort of coordinated day of action. Paul Novak from the TUC was with me that day, and I asked him about the level of coordination. He told me Mary, as in Mary Bowstead, doesn't get on the phone to Mick, you, to say let's strike on the same day. Are my listeners to believe there's no coordination between the various unions involved, Mr. Whelan?
Not directly. I mean, we're all under the umbrella union of the TUC, but also there's that many people currently vocationally, industrially balloting or have the right to strike. If it had been coordinated, I think there'd been more than 500,000. It might have been 1 million, maybe 2.
You're also, of course, chair of Labour Unions, the group of unions affiliated to the Labour Party. How many times have you spoken with Labour Sir Keir Starmer during this industrial action?
We don't. He has no role in what we do, our strategy, our politics, or our tactics. The people we talk to are the people that we represent, the 21,000 train drivers in the United Kingdom.
We saw enormous profits from an oil company, Shell, yesterday. It was Esso the day before. One of your fellow unions, Unite, has called for a windfall tax on profits there, and possibly even from financial institutions. Where are you on that, Mr. Whelan?
I've been calling for a Robin Hood tax for years. I've also been calling for windfall tax. It's quite simple. That, if we look at current inflation, if nobody's getting a pay rise, it's not being driven by wages. It might be in the future. So the top 350 FTSE companies, their profitability went up by 73%. There seems to be, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, a degree of profiteering going on that isn't reflected then in either taxation or giving them back to society, either through paying people wages, then they pay back in tax, or generating where we should be. I think there's and then a disparity about what's going on currently.
When you hear callers on shows such as these and elsewhere, as I have done, and they say, why are these men and women on strike? Some of them are making more than £1,000 a week, some of them are making £65,000 a year. How do you respond?
Well, it was only 3 prime ministers ago, which in our terms these days wasn't that long ago, when we were talking about high-skilled, high wages. So, I don't enter into the idea of a race to the bottom. This is what we were earning 4 years ago. I would like everybody to have what we have. And the idea that if we don't have it, that automatically it goes to somebody else, it's never been seen as, in my world, as actually happening. It's this comparator that, we keep other people's wages down because other people do well. Now, and I know from previous discussions we've had, that no one's ever given us anything. We've given productivity and flexibility to generate what we've got. We did not privatise the industry. We fought against it. But there's no reason we should suffer now because of a change of view of the government. And I keep making the point that we work for private companies that are declaring profits and paying dividends to their shareholders, but they're not paying the people that work for them.
Financially, how much longer do you think your colleagues will be able to strike, to go on picket lines rather than earning a day's pay?
I think we're in this for the long haul. I mean, how long's a piece of string? So if we don't get a pay rise for 4 years, will it be 5? Will it be 6? Will it be 7? Would it be stupid to stop this now, then restart it sometime in the future because you lose any impetus that you gained? But also, if I look around the UK at the moment, it's the civil service, it's local government, it's the fire brigade, it's the NHS, it's the post, it's the POA, it's the lecturers, it's the teachers. This isn't just a rail problem. The government's got a problem everywhere with the cost of living crisis, and at some time has got to step and say what we're going to do about it.
I think you probably answered my next question, actually, Mr. Whelan. I was going to say, do you think it might enter a second year? And from your tone there, it might enter a third year, let alone a second year. Mick?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, we'll be guided by the people that we represent. Now, under the current legislation, we have to reballot every 6 months. We reballoted most of the companies just before Christmas. We were previously getting 92 to 99% in favour of strike action. And the turnout and the average went up by 1%. So the willingness by our members to protect their terms and conditions and seek this powers. But also, was it the rail minister who went to the select committee last week and said that they bailed the companies out to the tune of £1 billion on strike days, and the companies weren't losing anything? In a normal strike situation, there would be the companies and the workers would want to get round the table because both were suffering. At this moment in time, it's only the workers that are suffering.
Grateful for your time, Mick. I do hope peace can break out for everybody involved. Mick Whelan is General Secretary of ASLEF. Thanks for coming on the show. 4 minutes before 8 is the time. Let's come back to the mortgage misery, as it's being called, for sadly millions of you, with the 14-year high now. Ryan is in Potters Bar. Ryan, your story. Good morning, sir. Thank you for holding.
Good morning, Nick. Yeah, same as a lot of your other callers. Nick, I wanted to buy I'm 38 now. I wanted to buy my own flat.
Yeah.
Oh, God, a few years